So is this going to be one of those things that at the end of your life you go, damn, I wish I had just, right? And I really wish I had tried to do that. I really wish I pushed myself to do that. And I just I didn't want that regret. I wanted to give it a shot. And if you're going to, give it a shot, then make the investment in yourself and your instrument and your tools to be successful, just like you would anything else. Um,
Mm.
and this is an investment in yourself. And I remember making the investment and thinking, yep, worth it. I'm worth it, and this is worth it. And it is worth it because it's been really, I mean, it's life changing.
That was Cara. She is a recent graduate of the 6-month artist development coaching program. We recently got together online to find out how she was doing, to find out how her new band is, and to get her feedback now that she has a little hindsight on her experience with the coaching process so she could share her thoughts, tell you about her journey, and hopefully inspire you to go after your own transformation. Speaking of which, I'm Judy Fine. I'm a vocal performance and confidence coach, and I'm the creator of the Singer Athlete Vocal Development Workout Program. Find out more about all these things at judyfinecoach.com. It was a lengthy conversation, as conversations can be when two friends get together. So, what I did is I separated out the different aspects that pertain to different segments of her coaching process. Tell us where you are at as far as vocal technique goes, and what your experience was with the singer athlete workout program and these vocal exercises, etc.
Yeah. Well, I think before we met, I never really realized that there was a discipline around vocals, which may sound, I don't know, so silly, is that naive? I've always had, right, some ability vocally, but never did anything formally. And so in, like, instruments that, just you have to practice, you have to practice, you have to practice. To me, practicing vocally meant learning new words, learning a new melody, learning new lyrics. But it's so much more than that, right? So, like with the vocal exercises, actually, it's a workout and it's training, just like you would your body, just like you would on guitar or piano. Um, and it works, right? I mean, so you can actually see and hear progress in, like, what you're able to hit, what you're not able to hit. If you're fairly consistent with it, you can kind of jump right back into it after a day. But just like anything, you miss a few days and then you got to get caught back up. So for me, just having the education and the discipline around treating your voice as an instrument that needs to be honed and learned, and that there's always
Mm.
things to learn. Because I think maybe that's where, at least what I've seen out there, folks kind of give up. I don't know if that's not the right word, but they don't practice it as an instrument and as an art. So that's really what this gave me, was awakening to the fact that there's a ton of things that you can do vocally with discipline.
And that's where that athlete mentality comes in. Like, you think of it as an athlete training, because an
That's
athlete wouldn't jog and lift weights for 4 months and then be like, okay, I'm done,
right.
and then just never do it again.
That's
Right? You
right.
got to keep your instrument strong, keep your body strong.
Yeah. I will say the first lesson, when I had no idea what to expect, was like so bizarre. I did not understand that we were going to be like doing la 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 la. You know what I mean? So the first time you and I got together, I'm like, I don't even. I like having access to it too, Judy, because one of the things that I want to work on is my ability to do harmonies. So I want to take some time with that section of it. But I loved having it online. I would have loved to have hung out with you in person, just because I like you so much as a person. But I didn't find it disruptive that it was Zoom. And disruptive is not the right word, but it didn't get in the way, um,
Mhm.
which I thought
Yeah.
was really
Yeah, a lot of
cool.
people are afraid of that,
Yeah,
but I find it to be a great way, especially since you live in a different state than me.
yeah,
So we didn't really have a
absolutely.
choice.
Less of a commute.
Since you mentioned music theory, why don't we just talk about that? Now, not everybody who does artist development coaching wants to do music theory, but you really did. So tell us sort of where you were with that, and how you feel like the music theory for singers module helped.
So I was a self-taught guitar player, which is kind of
Hmm.
scary, right? So and I took some theory in college, but I've never really made kind of those connections and in
Mhm.
terms of like how it fit together. And then I added in, a little bit of piano, which is how your lessons are structured. To me, music theory is so much more natural with the piano because it's linear.
Sure.
And the white,
Yeah.
the black, it's just so much more straightforward than a guitar. I wish I had started there.
Mhm.
So it was kind of what I loved about the material that you put together is it's very structured, it's very simple, it's very step by step. So it's logical. And for me, it 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 brought it down to a level of simplicity where I was able to make different connections between vocals, piano, and guitar that kind of made
Mm.
music theory make sense. So I kind of feel like
Nice.
even though I brought it in at the end, which maybe would have been a little bit more straightforward at the beginning, just I loved the tools and the modules that you had. I mean, just I still go back to them and make myself sit down and build a fifth or build a minor or build a major
Mhm.
chord because it helps you to understand, obviously, what notes it's composed of. And so, like you were just saying earlier about the example of where, you had something that you were like, I can hit it, but I'm not super confident I can do it consistently. That you drop it down to that to
Yep.
five, right? So that
Right.
those are the notes that are within the chord or within the music.
Right. The intention was to make it focus on what singers would need because you can get textbooks this thick about music theory. So it was intended for that, and I did it because it's one of my skill sets because I studied composition in college. But more than that, many people out in the world just don't think of singers as musicians.
That's very
In fact, I opened a school in New Hampshire in 2008, right before the housing crash. It was awesome. Um, and I was going to call it the Musician Studio, and I sort of floated that name with a few different people, and every single one of them is like maybe five people. Every single one of them said to me, "But I thought you teach singing." So I had to call it the Singers and Musicians Studio,
yeah,
which is a
yeah.
really long name to type into an URL. But so I wanted to change that and make it so I mean, I think all singers should think of themselves as musicians and learn some music theory. Many singers don't want to. So it was really awesome that you were into that and that was important to you.
You can practice, you can develop, you can get stronger, you can improve your range, you can improve your ability to harmonize. Like there's all sorts of things that you can work on
Mhm.
from a vocal perspective to get better. Whether it's your timing, are you coming in right
Yeah.
on, are you coming in flat? Like just really
Yeah.
studying it, like and treating it with that level of respect makes a big difference on stage. It really comes across as opposed to somebody that's just up there, like they're at a karaoke bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're really right. And the rhythm piece in particular, because if you get lost, if something goes awry during a performance, you need to know where the downbeat is if
Yes.
you're going to get back.
Yes.
Super important, but
Yeah.
you're correct, people don't really think of that. And
Yeah.
I think it seems intimidating, like music theory just seems like I mentioned, there can be textbooks this wide,
Yes.
so
Sounds scary. It does sound scary,
but
but what
it's doesn't
the cool
have to
thing
be.
is, it doesn't have to be, and I think you've broken it down to that. It's almost like, and as it should be, almost like reading like an elementary school textbook. You know what I mean? Because it is
Mm,
very basic, very simple. And then when you hear
yep,
your bandmates talking, you might not know exactly what they're talking about. Um, you
but
might
you have
not
an
know.
idea.
Yeah, but you have an idea.
Yeah, yeah, and that's super empowering
Yeah.
because you don't have to melt into the background and wait for the musicians to
Right.
stop talking,
The grown-ups
right?
talk. Right.
Let's talk about performance coaching. So, you were I'll let you describe it, but this was something that was important to you because you were pretty nervous about performing. And so let's talk about where you were, what things we did. You can share maybe some of those early open mic nights or
Yeah.
anything else that was part of that journey.
Yeah. So before we started any classes or any coaching together, I had taken a run at a couple of different a couple of different bands. And again, really no experience, didn't really know what I was doing, knew I had, some ability. Bought a microphone, bought a mic stand, bought a cord, and kind of threw it up on stage. It was like, let's do this. So um, we practiced a lot. We practiced too much. And then when we first did a gig, it was kind of like it was a more kind of like a biker bar, you know what I mean? So it's kind of which is cool with me, it's fine. But when you kind of get up there and I kind of see this sea of black shirts, and so we get up there, and these are songs we practiced, and I panicked.
Mm.
My body my legs started shaking uncontrollably. I mean, to the point where I'm in my head going, stop shaking, stop shaking. You're fine. There's nothing wrong
That
with
always
you.
works.
Not working. So we just started going, and I started singing, and it subsided a little bit. And I never really got through that night feeling good, and never got to a point where I
Mm.
felt good. And although it's not apparent to other people, when I hear those recordings, I can hear my voice shaking. Know
Mm.
what I mean? It
Yep.
probably wasn't as evident if you don't know me, but I was terrified. And so, because
Mm.
I had gotten terrified, then I was terrified of the next time, because I
Sure.
was like, that's going to happen again. I'm going to get up there, and what am I going to do? And so that was kind of created this cycle of doubt. I will emphasize on the things that can go wrong quicker and faster and more than the things that can go right. It's always just been the way that I've I don't know, self-maintained and throughout life, is to kind of be prepared for the what's the worst thing that can happen. So you spend a lot of time in what's the worst thing that can happen space, and spend a lot of energy kind of visualizing there. You're somewhat dooming yourself, right? And so when you and I first got together, you were just pointing out to me kind of how I was uh, kind of poisoning my own performance, right? With all that negativity that's going on in my head. And said, imagine it's not you, imagine it's another woman. And she's up there giving it a shot and singing her heart out. Like, wouldn't you support her? Wouldn't you be like, yeah, go for it? As opposed to somebody in your ear saying, you can't do this, you know? And so I always
Totally.
laughed in my head about, okay, Karen, go to the bar and go sit over there. Stop telling me I can't do this, because I can do it. So,
Yeah.
that
Yep.
was a big, that was huge for me.
But it's almost more fun when mistakes happen that you have to navigate away from. Like,
Yeah,
and you and your band members have this like secret, like we know that
right.
nobody else knows kind of thing. That is fun. But that is why confidence is so key. I mean, that's why I do what I do.
Yeah,
Because people think they're gonna feel the way you feel if they just do more vocal exercises. And that, they feel better about their voice. And it's a separate skill.
it totally is.
Do you remember the first open mic night you did once we were working together?
I do. It was at a Whiskey Jack's, and it's a nice, big, beautiful stage, and really well organized, and a lot of people are there. And I had never really done it before, with my acoustic guitar, and I had been practicing, and I was so nervous. And the leg thing happened again. I mean, it did. I mean, I was sitting this time, but then I have a pick in my hand, you know what I mean? And I started shaking, and I got through it again. Not like, you know, anything I'd want to memorialize forever, because again, I can hear it in my guitar playing, I can hear it in my voice. And then that was a lot of it too, just kind of getting through the program, working through through all of it, and getting past that self doubt in your head, which I don't know if it's easier as a kid or as an adult, but as a 50-something-year-old woman, I've had those things cycling in my head for a really long time. They've been there for a really
Mm.
long time.
You have to practice your vocal technique. You have to practice feeling better and more confident about yourself. You have to practice performance. There's
Yes.
no getting ready for that. But the last couple of months, you were doing it a lot.
Yeah, I was. I was once a week, and you were pushing me. You're like, all right, Missy, where are you going to be this week? Because I always want to do 3 new songs, and then I'm putting all this pressure on myself. You're like, you don't need to have to do all
Right.
that either.
Exactly.
Do the same damn 3 songs. Just do it. So
Exactly. Confidence isn't about being sure it's all going to go well. Confidence is being comfortable with the possibility that it won't.
I love that.
That's when you know you're confident.
Yeah,
When you're like, I'm going to go try and I'll do the best I can and it'll go well or it won't.
that's right. And I'll recover, and then
And
we'll recover or we won't, and it'll be embarrassing or it won't.
exactly.
Yeah,
Or I'll just go back next week and
yeah,
I'll do better.
exactly.
And part of the reason you have to be patient with yourself is that you're not just retraining your mind, you're retraining your body because your body learns to respond a certain way and you
Yes,
have to train your body to respond differently because it's that mind body loop. So your brain is like, oh my god, the body's really tense, let's go, we better cue the cortisol and
right.
whatever, we might be running away from a bear in a moment or whatever. So you have to be patient and kind to yourself the way, like you said, you would for another person.
Yes. And it was our first gig, and we had invited family and friends. Like, we had really put ourselves out there, for kind of gig number
Hmm.
one. I remember going up to groups, was this a good idea? I don't know if this is.
Yeah.
But we, packed the house, and my friends and family were there, and a lot of them, they're, of course, the ones that have been there and seen me shake on stage until we thought I was gonna shake myself right off. And they know me well enough to know when I'm like panicking. And so they've seen me kind of go through all these different cycles, and I was just eerily calm. I was surprised myself. They're like, wow, you seem really calm. I'm like, I know. It's weird, isn't it? You know what I mean? But I really did. I just felt like, got this. And it was a really good feeling. It's like, now I
Yeah.
understand why people do this.
There
Because
you
for a
go.
while, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I feel
Yep.
awful. You know what I mean?
I
I'm
I
scared,
went through that too.
nervous. You know what I mean? I'm a wreck going into it. Then coming out of it, I feel pretty good. But it's like, I'm pretty sure this isn't like, you know, how you're supposed to feel.
Pretty much.
So,
But you got there.
yeah.
So, one aspect of the artist development coaching program is that we sort of design your stage persona. And that's a whole process that we're not going to go into now. But tell me a little bit about who Luna is,
Yep.
how we came up with her, and then how she helps you be more confident and have more fun on stage.
So um I think one of the most difficult things for me, again, to do performance, because the other thing about being the vocalist is you are up front.
Hmm.
So that's, I think, the one of the more intimidating aspects of it, which is kind of like when we go back and say it's not really a musician. It's like, because that's a tough job. So when
Yeah.
you're up there and it's, you're up in front, that's a ton of pressure. And so for any person, like people, we don't necessarily like to see ourselves on camera, maybe not as much now in the selfie age, but it can be intimidating, to put yourself out there. So the concept of creating a second persona that becomes your performance persona was it's especially helpful for me, again, because I've always had this kind of negativity kind of running through my head, just as part of how I've dealt with problems, or thought about things in the past. And so to be able to remove yourself and to create a different person that is outside of you, that is all the things that you want her to be and not those things that you don't.
Yeah.
So you kind of have the opportunity now to design a person that has all the attributes and the things that you would want, as a person and as a performer. Mine was Luna. Um, and you would always say to me, "What would Luna think?" I was like, "Well,
Yep.
Luna wouldn't give a shit, wouldn't care." And you'd be like, "That's right," and I'd be like, "Okay, got it." And so it just started to, and just as most people know the analogy of Norma Jean and our and Marilyn Monroe, that she was able to step in and out of that persona, right? That she could become Marilyn or kind of step out and
Mhm.
just be Norma Jean. And so it's that same concept. It's, can you, when you pull open the doors to that gig and you walk in, who are you? You know, and who are you walking in as? And so if you're able to kind of step outside yourself and switch to that other person, it feels a lot less scary and a lot less intimidating. And it's almost like borrowing courage from someone else, because that person's not afraid and that person's not intimidated.
Yep.
That person, um, you know, doesn't. Because I remember you saying to me too, don't tie too much of yourself up in it. So it's like if you screw up, it doesn't mean you're a bad person, right?
Right.
You just kind of screwed up. So kind of take it easy on yourself and how much you um,
Yeah.
tie up your performance and like kind of how you do with who you are as a human being, because it's okay.
Exactly.
And so yeah, Luna's taught me a lot, and I take her with me everywhere. You know, the development of it, which was really detailed and awesome, was everything from, you know, who is this person, what does she look like, how does she act, what is her background, what is her history, what does she like to do. So it was really cool, a really cool exercise and discipline to do, to both kind of create that and then to start to learn to talk to that person and have that person talk back to you.
Yeah,
Uh,
she becomes like a big sister
yeah,
or,
yeah,
you know, something where you can lean on her and she'll lift you up. And it's not it is letting yourself sort of channel this other person, but when we build her, she ends up being the person you really want to be. She ends up being like a side of you.
right,
So it's not some like random different role that, you know, I'm going to be Ziggy Stardust today and I'm going to be or whatever.
right,
But it's like kind of like the person that you really do want to be, and you
yes.
design her. And it's super empowering, and it's also really fun because you could do something, you could fall into an old habit, anything. You could say yes to something when you wanted to say no, you know, whatever your old habit is, and you can sort of laugh with yourself and you say, oh, I should have talked to Luna first, you
That's
know,
right.
whatever.
That's
It can
right.
just sort of make things a little lighter.
I do think that in my head. What would Luna do? What would Luna do? What would Luna
Yeah.
do? You know? So, yeah, so she's definitely helpful to have around.
So let's cover making your public face and sort of networking. You were that overlaps with you going to open mics, but you had really thought maybe you were going to just do this solo thing, and then but then you decided to sort of put yourself out there in a place with other musicians could see you. So just tell us about that process of, you know, beyond open mics, just creating a public face and being open to meeting other people.
I think that was one of the one of the hardest things for me to do. So, um, yeah, so already kind of out there, at least getting my skis under me in terms of getting more confidence and doing performance. And then there's the social media aspect of it. So you had encouraged me to create a band mix profile, which for those that don't know what band mix is, it's like LinkedIn for musicians. So it's kind of this professional network specific for musicians. And, you know, it's super simple. What instruments do you play? What level of proficiency are you? A different, you know, voice, of course, also included. It's kind of just create like a little profile. And once we had done that, I think it was 7 days later, I had gotten someone reached out to me because, as you had said, I had kind of given up on the band thing. The band thing can be really difficult, and I don't know if it's worse or better when you're an adult. But when you're an adult with a bunch of other musicians that are very, you know, opinionated, have been there, done that, you know, don't necessarily want to be out there, you know, working super late at bars all the time. You might have differences in opinions in
Right.
music, etc. It's a difficult marriage to find kind of the right mix of personalities, musical tastes, being able to tolerate one another,
It's
and
a marriage with 4 other people or
yes,
5 other people.
yeah,
That's why it's so difficult, but go ahead.
artists too, right? So not just
Yes.
any people. Um, So setting up the band mix was amazing because I someone reached out to me and asked me to audition, which is the band that I'm with now, which happened really fast and it was really awesome. But I think even the harder part for me was creating my Facebook profile and really
Mm,
putting myself and then tied to the name musician out there because you kind of feel like, am I worthy of the title? you know do I get to
yes.
call myself that? And again, to like put that flag out there as like, this is your art, and putting yourself out there and putting some videos out there it was intimidating. But like once we did it, and again, like rip the band-aid off. So same thing, Judy, with all of your encouragement for open mic nights, etc. You just have to do it, and you just have to put yourself out there, and then you got to channel your whoever your buddy is over here to just not you know be intimidated or study what went wrong, or the little imperfections, but more celebrate
Right.
the larger the victory of it all, as opposed to beating yourself to death. um,
Yes.
and it takes a minute to be able to do that.
Yeah. And how do you think my take on when I first met you and you were still singing with some other musicians and it was chaotic and maybe dysfunctional. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's too strong of a word.
no, it's
Okay,
pretty accurate.
dysfunctional. And I feel like part of your evolution, confidence wise, was by the time we were done with the program, I feel like you would not have stayed with people like that.
Yeah,
So part of it is having the confidence to be and to not feel like I'm less than these people and I'm lucky to be here with them and so I
yeah.
have to put up with them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that's very true. I didn't have the confidence to weigh in on song choices, or what keys are most beneficial, or can we take it up a step or down a step, or just to say no. Like, I mean, as a band member and as a musician, you want to be agreeable. You're not always going to sing your set list, and you have to play what other people want to hear, kind of whatever's going on, what other people like. So I think that's definitely an important part of it too, is you got to kind of you're going to have to
Compromise.
get outside and compromise. But if there's something that's absolutely not working for you, to be able to have the confidence to know that that's not working, or to your point, like if the band is just not jiving, or if it's just not going anywhere, knowing that it's not like the end. And
Yeah.
I had a band that I was with, I thought I was very close with, and they decided that I wasn't the right vocal fit for them, and I was devastated. I was hurt on a personal level. I was hurt on a professional level. Like, it was really painful for me. And it took me a while, again, to kind of get past and through it, that it's not a judgment on me as a human being. It just wasn't a right fit for that situation.
Yeah, I mean they did you a favor. They were disorganized and I don't think they're even a band now, are
They're
they?
not,
And you've moved on to this great new thing.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you have to be able to you have to trust that you're going to find your right thing. It's like any relationship.
it
If it's
is.
not serving you, let it go.
I'll never love again.
Totally.
It was exactly what I needed in terms of a structure, a discipline, and a path, to finally do what I've always wanted to do. I didn't know how to do it.
Mm,
I just didn't know how to get from, my living room to the stage. And not just in terms of like where my talent level was, because that has helped there as well. But again, the confidence part was just huge, because I was trying it on my own, and really suffering from an anxiety perspective. And to be honest, I probably would have given up
mm,
without it. And I think what really drove me to finally do this was just asking myself, as morbid as it sounds, are you going to be okay if you never
mm,
try it? So is this
right.
going to be one of those things that at the end of your life you go, damn, I wish I had just, right? And I really wish I had tried to do that. I really wish I pushed myself to do that. And I just didn't want I didn't want that regret. I wanted to give it a shot. And if you're gonna, give it a shot, then make the investment in yourself and your instrument and your tools to be successful, just like you would anything else. Um,
Mm,
and this is an investment in yourself. And I remember making the investment and thinking, yep, worth it. I'm worth it, and this is worth it. And it is worth it because it's been really, I mean, it's life changing. It
mm.
it changes, the whole dynamic of kind of everything that you have going on in your life. It changes your focus. And I think it changes the confidence level, not just of your kind of persona, but of you as well. I almost think of myself a little bit differently now than I did before. So
Thank you so much to Cara for sitting down with me to talk. And thank you to you for listening. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it inspirational. Now go practice.